Good morning, evening, afternoon. I'm tatocat. Welcome to my channel. Today we're playing Echoes Lucid9 Fangame. Previously, um, well, we got summoned in a very nice, polite way by Airi, to meet with her. Sounded like it was an option, but it's definitely not an option, and maybe we'll live. It sounds like, and that's where we left off. All right, let's continue. Come with me. We're already behind schedule. Despite actually being 13 minutes ahead of schedule, I begrudgingly followed Agent Hirega as she passes through the cordon under an awning and into what appears to be a sports bar. The commander appears thoroughly horrified as she accompanies me inside, constantly looking down at her sidearm, but never reaching for it. Something must have happened to make her this paranoid. I'm not sure I want to know what that something is. I want to know! I want to know what the something is! This is definitely a sports bar. Well, while 9 in the morning isn't exactly a busy time for an establishment like this, I don't see a single person sitting at any one of the tables. There's barely any staff here either. Well, you are in lockdown. DCIS must have closed the place down. I can only hope the owners got paid for their trouble, but knowing how fond DCIS is of civil fortitude or forfeiture, it's likely that they never even saw a single deslin for their trouble. Ah, agent, who is this? A host steps down from the nearby front podium and bows before Agent Hirega. Welcome to Hikari's. Please, take a seat anywhere you'd like. Thank you. As my party and I will be discussing matters of some sensitivity, I must ask that the acoustic conditions of our exchange be optimized. If you are able, please lead us to the most remote and well-insulated booth in this establishment. Of course, agents. If you'll follow me. Sorry for the delay. My name is Satoshi is a boy's name. Sorry for the delay. My name's Satoshi, and I'll be your server this morning. May I start you three off with something to drink? I'll take a peach daiquiri, virgin. It takes a second for me to realize that the agent's order wasn't an insult. Certainly. One virgin peach daiquiri coming up. Oh, so Ginger just looked at, for a second, really just thought she went, I'll take a peach daiquiri, virgin. Is that like how she heard it in her head? Aw. Poor thing. Yeah, like, what, she's 12? Okay, she's not 12. It's 3 years in the future, and she's, oh, math. She is 18? She's 1 year younger than Rui, so yeah. The waiter turns to the commander. And for you, ma'am? A lemon lime ramunade, please. What about you, operative? Want anything to drink? A glass of sparkling water would be great. Of course. I'll be back momentarily with your drinks. Here you are. 1 virgin peach daiquiri, a lemon lime ramunade, and a glass of sparkling water. Thank you. Now, regarding payment. Agent Hiriga raises 2 fingers to the side of her helmet. In an instant, a fluorescent red UI appears, mirrored on the inside of her visor. And with a few shifts of her gaze, she seems to operate it as easily as the average citizen of Isamu would operate a touchscreen or of a smartphone. Then, with another tap of its frame, the projected image vanishes as quickly as it had appeared. There, the cost of this order has been paid in full, alongside 300% gratuity in exchange for services rendered. That's 300%? Your speed was impressive. The order in insubstantial. If you disagree with the former, consider it a non-proportional compensation. Now, would you kindly leave us? Right away, Agent. And thank you. Now, I received a $50 tip once back when I was a waitress, and I was equally as shocked. I was like, huh? You're giving me money? Once the waiter is out of earshot, Airi turns to us with a sour expression before tapping her wrist to run a perimeter scanner. Perimeter scanner. Good. No listening devices in the area. Airi leans in, setting her elbows on the table and crossing her arms as it creaks beneath her. I hope you can realize that my organization is not the soulless entity your corporation believes it to be. In fact, almost all DCIS personnel are reasonable and pragmatic individuals capable of both charity and discretion. What about the rest of DCIS? Really? The commander's eyes shoot open in unease as she hurriedly uses her free hand to sign hold fire and fall back in our corporation's tactical SL, normally reserved for covert ops in low audibility environments, which I assume DCIS actually knows. Once I realize that I've done what I've done, it doesn't take much for me to heed her warning for the rest of the meeting. The rest of them are the ones you hear about, Miss Hayata. The disagreeability of their operational standards makes them an excellent source of feedstock for anti-Limnitsgate propaganda, and it is regrettable that our entire organization is judged by the conduct of so few. Judging from her dispassionate and concise answer, Agent Hirika doesn't seem bothered by my question. Regardless, I should refrain from asking her anything else. At the very least, not while the commander is still here. As the one responsible for organizing this meeting... sorry, Airi. As the one responsible for organizing this meeting, I granted this establishment 400,000 in exchange for its closure. Study your accounts, and you will also see that my subordinates and I made every effort to comply with the mandates of your current biological condition. We made sure to switch our armor to EV mode before we arrived. It was our assessment that it would be appreciated if we were to breathe our own air instead of yours. Thank you, Agent. Agent Hirga simply smiles in response, using her nearest hand to pluck the reusable miniature umbrella out of her drink. Rather pedestrian, but a quaint decoration nonetheless. She dries the object with a nearby napkin before gently settling it down on the table. And somehow, Hirga's demeanor managed to give even that simple, harmless action a threatening appearance. When I sat down at this table, I could have sworn I felt something else in the air with us. Something cold and abrasive clouding my mind and sweeping my skin like a broom. It's probably nothing, or at least I hope it's nothing. Now then, to business. Airi stands up and raises a clenched fist into the air. Zeal sufficient to deplatform a soapbox. Wow, look how... She's so scary right there. It looks like she's planning to take over the world. As you already know, the Isamu meritocracy was founded 3 years ago to ensure that our nation was one capable of unity, self-sufficiency, and compassion. And competition in equal measure. This was accomplished through discipline, principle, and most of all, our willingness to model our society upon the teachings of history. Competent statecraft relies on competent employment of social constructs to maintain order, and for thousands of years, the construct of hegemony has remained the construct of hegemony has remained the most stable and effective means of doing so. The ideal society ensures that every citizen has superiors to obey, subordinates to command, and peers to be accountable to. Economics and identity politics are simply means of making that order more appealing. This was logic the party used to create the citizen class system, and to determine who ruled and who obeyed. We used only measure of authority that has ever truly mattered raw economic output. Nature, natural ability, and the value of one's body is one thing, but what use does it have if you lack the capital to invest in it and transform it into something marketable? True value stems from a union of the two, and it is the duty of the state to invest that value into the production of the correct goods and services. Should the focus of the common citizens falter. But a lone government can only do so much on its own. So the corporate power of the trifect were brought in to offer oversight, to grant them power, and to grant themselves the favor and the power of the state. The citizen votes with their wallets, for only then is their vote worth anything. Like a centrifuge powered by fierce competition within an established market, those with both wealth and great personal value rise to the top and govern the lesser classes, while the mediocre settle down below them, settle in their shadow, and learn their place. The truly worthless and incompetent, however, cannot be forgiven. It is the duty of the state to punish them more harshly for each successive mistake until they settle into a cluster of degenerate matter and can be scraped away. This may seem cruel to you, but I need not to remind you that life is a costly thing, and there is no sense in preserving it at a loss. Wow. I didn't think Airi would become this. As reasonable citizens, it was our understanding that a consensus has been reached, but we were mistaken in believing that every citizen was a reasonable one. Foreigners attempting to infiltrate our nation and spread their influence are a trivial issue in comparison to those who have turned their back and attempt to undermine us from within. The spineless keyboard warriors of the Birdsong Collective, the so-called Isamu Liberation Front, both are different flavors of impropriety, but still equally distasteful. Much of the unemployed population in District 6 would rather support these criminals than accept that they are no longer needed. It's fair to feed the loyal ones if use can be found for them, but the rest are barely fit to rot in our gutters, let alone breathe our air. But enough about them. The agent takes a sip of her daiquiri. Well, I don't like this, Airi. Are you interested in making yourself useful? I'd imagine it's the duty of every citizen to do so. It is indeed. Agent Hirga raises her glass. You speak with great wisdom, operative, and in spirit, your voice echoes the steadfast dictations and creeds of some of Isamu's greatest patriots. But many true patriots are ignorant of what is necessary, and their pride stems from a failure to understand what must be done. You and I are both aware of the sordid realities that our nation hides, and the actions that those with cold heart must take to ensure its survival. The people are not yet. You speak as they do. Tell me, operative, when you finally do all that is asked of you, will you still be able to speak with the zeal of one who knows nothing? That depends on what you'd ask of me. Only that you make yourself useful to the Department of Corporate the Department of Corporate Intelligence and Security. A reasonable task for any soldier of your caliber. Rest assured, DCAS wouldn't have you do anything that the rest of your organization would object to. After all, having you work for us voluntarily serves both of our interests. Voluntarily, by force. It's not really voluntary if your options are do it or die, you know. And if a handful of doubters ever did exist, they would have long since been offered apt incentive to see our point of view. My employer recognizes that value of your corporation, operative. So do I. It's why I offered to establish a dialogue with you inside the confines of your own territory. I am confident that we have no reason to distrust one another, especially given what's at stake. You reached out to us because you needed allies in the fight against this virus. DCIS, and by proxy, Limnisgate Corporation, are willing to become those allies. However, that alliance has a price. Before we can eliminate the adversary that drove you to begin to beg for our assistance, you'll need to prove to us that an enemy of Isamu is an enemy of the Way Forward Corporation as well. After all, both serve the same nation. We both contribute our economic and military might to it. It's logical to assume that our goals should align. Unless, of course, you would place your corporation's interest above those of the people. But you're smarter than that, operative. Or am I wrong? We have no reason to oppose DCIS, Agent. Even if we did, it would be inherently unwise to do so. I'm here on behalf of a medical corporation, one whose duty is to create production or create products that serve the people. You represent the state. The state is also serves the people. If you were to ask those people what they thought of DCAS, most of them would say the same thing. And what of those who wouldn't, operative? What would your opinion be of those who labored under the misconception that as instruments of the state, we didn't serve them? Oh my, it's a choice. Oh dear. I'd want to convince them otherwise. It's impossible to help anyone who thinks you have it in for them. I disagree with them, but I'd only consider the violent and seditious ones to be a direct threat. I doubt they'd live long enough for it to matter. I guess either way, you have to kind of convince them. But yeah, you can't really help it. If people think you're out to get them, you can't really do anything. So I know I'm choosing green again, but I'm choosing green because that's really true. I'd want to convince them otherwise. It's impossible to help anyone who thinks you have it in for them. Agent Hirga scoffs. I don't think she liked the answer. Let me see if I understand your mindset correctly, operative. These people are spreading lies about our nation, sabotaging our infrastructure, causing billions of in property damage, and you want to talk to them? And not just to talk to these dangerous terrorists, but to try and convert them back in functioning citizens? Oh no! She likes me less. No, hopefully that doesn't bite me in the ass. In case you haven't noticed, operative, we are on the brink of war with these fanatics. Fanatics who, if not put down immediately, will continue fighting to see the end of Isamu and its people. The crime these dissidents have committed against us demands that they face only the most punitive forms of justice at our disposal for the damage they've inflicted on our society. Some would argue that they don't even deserve the kindness of a quick death. But as cookie cutter as your way forward naivete is, the nation still harbors many confused citizens. The kind of citizens easily managed by our censorship protocols, or those that agree to remain silent after a single visit from us. And as ashamed as I am to admit it, even those sent to our in-city re-education facilities can be salvaged. As cathartic as it may be, it's simply not cost-effective to eliminate them. While I see that you aspire to attain a functional and ideologically pure society, many of my colleagues would equate the idea of rehabilitation to sympathizing with these deplorables. So I would advise you to cease expressing such sentiments before someone gets the wrong idea about you. Nevertheless, you've offered me sufficient confirmation that our interests align. At any rate, Operative, my organization's offer to you is thus. Agent Hirga looks to the right and then to the left, surveying the vicinity for any possible eavesdroppers. If I recall correctly, Operative, your citizenship status remains a matter of some concern. Missing and presumed deceased since July 2038. I doubt dying months before the meritocracy's establishment would make it easy to travel anywhere without way forward's protection. I wouldn't know, Agent. I've never tried to get out of here. I'm under orders to remain in the district, and as inconvenient as those orders are, a brief stroll through the rest of town isn't worth risking my life over. That is quite the understatement, Operative. If you were that reckless, I doubt you'd even live long enough to attend this meeting. Well, we'll see what more Airi has to say. I do not like this new Airi. I liked old Airi better. She was so nice, so much nicer before whatever happened to her. Man, she got darker than before. Well, we'll see how this turns out in the next episode.